We always talk about like women being careful of marrying their dad. But to be honest, you got to be careful of marrying a man like your mama. Because, yeah, baby, there's a lot of women out here who married men like their mother. And I realize I definitely don't want to deal with nothing like that because I know how my mama is. I love her to death, but
Let's wake up this very uncomfortable conversation. I have never heard anybody put it quite this way. Marrying a man like your mother. Uh, Listen, a lot of women don't want to have this conversation because it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you come from a dysfunctional mother, especially when you used to be a people pleaser because of that dysfunctional mother. It is a very hard conversation to have because usually when we think about relationships, dating, courtship, marriage, anything in that arena, the knowledge and the wisdom that is given to women is if you have a father who was there but he was not the best male role model in your life, you want to avoid a man like your toxic father. Or if you had a man that was supposed to be there, but he was absent, you want to avoid marrying a man that's like your absent father or the stories that you heard about your absent father. So that is usually the wisdom and the counsel and the advice that is given to women when it comes to dating and making the best choices for your dating life and marriage. However, what if what if the anchor in your life and the greatest opposition and resistance to your progress has been your mother? What happens to a woman then in terms of family planning, relationship, and marriage? I find that oftentimes women who come from toxic femininity households where the mother was a toxic feminine presence in their lives, they end up choosing partners that are also toxic feminine, but it is in a male form. And the reason why that ends up being the cycle is because that is a familiar spirit. That familiar spirit will follow that woman from childhood into adulthood until she acknowledges a pattern. There is no way to break a cycle without acknowledgement of a pattern. But I find women who come from toxic feminine households end up dating the same men who mirror the characteristics and the behaviors of their mothers because it has been normalized due to conditioning. If that was your norm, those things that are red flags, you will not see them as such because that was your normal. So when that man goes from being this knight in shining armor on his best behavior, love bombing you, giving you what you think is the world, when that mask comes off, you will be in your people pleasing energy and you will do everything to try to get him to go back to the behavior and the performance that he displayed before because you did the same thing when you were a child. The same thing that you would end up doing with that abusive, toxic, or dysfunctional or narcissistic, toxic feminine man is the same thing that you were doing to your toxic feminine mother. She has conditioned you to be that way. Let's go and examine the narcissistic mother to the narcissistic romantic partner. Oftentimes, when you're in a narcissistic household with a toxic feminine mother, that woman, if you don't go with the program and do what she wants you to do and not allow her to control your life, the first thing she starts to do is to create a secret competition between you and her.
Y'all get on the internet, tell her that she pretty. She wants y'all to go against me. And that's what's going on. But tell them people that you were dating a 14-year-old. That's why you ain't got that car. Tell them people that I had to sign paper in the schoolhouse for 10 people.
One of the ways in which she does that is nitpicking your beauty. When a young girl goes through the phase of puberty and she is developing, she may have acne, she may have little chest buds, she may be going through hormonal issues, and for a lot of young women, they go through their menses as well. So instead of your mother trying to educate you on this stage of your life, getting you skincare routines, helping you with your hygiene, getting you undergarments, things of that nature. A lot of times there are young women who grow up in household where the mother completely and purposefully drops the ball in that area. She does not teach her anything about womanhood, anything about grooming practices or anything. That young woman can find herself in situations where her outside friends or schoolmates may have to teach her those things, or even the television has to teach her those things because her mother will not even educate her on proper grooming practices and ways to care for herself because she's jealous of her own daughter. Sometimes mothers will nitpick the little girl's beauty and talk about her acne, talks about her skin texture, talk about her hair texture, but not do anything to invest in her self-care practices. And she does that on purpose so that the little girl feels rejected by society. And so she can't go out and present herself as her best. And for a lot of young women, this is when they find themselves in some very sticky situations because they may have to get clothes from their friends. They may have to get their hair done by their friends. And if you do go that route, then a lot of times the mother gets mad and try to isolate her daughter from those friends. She does not want the daughter to get love, acceptance, community, and support from anyone that is not her.
Go ask her why she begging right now. I'm finna go ask her why you begging for money when I just gave you $2,000. You just gave it to that boy. Ask her. Y'all gonna listen to you. She over there crying, manipulating y'all, and she lying. Ask her what's the money at. Ask her why you begging for money and I just gave you $2,000. Ask him for acting. Ask her. Ask her. Ask her. Where the money at? Where is the money?
A lot of times these mothers will get mad when you have a mentor or a counselor or anyone that is helping you to be a better person, because that is not the overall objective for her. She wants you down and out, even as a little girl. These mothers will use either silent treatment or nonstop arguing as a way to keep you from having rest and living a soft life where your nervous system is regulated.
She said I would give my money away to a dude. Mind you, that $2,000 went on shoes, clothes, auto, and everything. That $2,000 did not go on no dude. That boy got his own money. Every man or boy that comes to her, oh my God, that's a lie. What? She making it seem like I'm just ran through and I don't even do it. I be at home. Shoot, like how I'm gonna do something when she won't let me go nowhere? Like I was crying. I was so hurt. I was crying so bad, but I'm okay though. But I just hate that, like, I ain't gonna lie, I'm so hurt because I hate the fact that, like, it had to come to, I'm finna cry. I hate the fact that, like, it had to come to the internet, like, the internet. Like, it's always some. Oh my God. Every time something go on, internet. It's never that, like, I just feel like it could have been handled more instead of going to the internet. I just feel like it could have been talked about more instead of just going straight to the internet.
If they see you even remotely sitting down or resting or not doing anything, they immediately try to tag you as being lazy. And all a young girl is doing is laying down. But they put that on you as an opportunity for you to be provoked, to put your nervous system at a dysregulated state. So you're always on edge and you never get an opportunity to just relax and be at ease. Being at ease creates chaos in a chaotic person. They do not want you to get proper rest. They don't even invest in getting you vitamins or minerals or anything. It is their job to keep you up and disturb you for as much as they can, as long as you are under their roof. Anytime where you get an opportunity to even sit down and study, they will interfere with you then and there. Some of these toxic mothers, they will say, I don't know what you're acting like you're studying for. You ain't smart. You ain't going to make nothing of yourself. No way. You're already making D's. You're making C's. Da 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 da. But they don't do anything to assist and the academic performance of the daughter that they are jealous of. Now, if it's a golden child situation where maybe she likes the father and don't, because some of these households, they have multiple fathers. So she may like the father of one child and don't like the father of the other child. So the one child may be the golden child, and the child that she doesn't like, her father, that may be the scapegoat. And the one that's the scapegoat, that's the one that gets all of the pain and all of the brutalization and the torment. But the one that the father may be giving the mother money, or her and the father may be still creeping around or something, that daughter or that son, they'll get love, they'll get cared for, and they get triangulated against the scapegoat daughter. It's a sick situation, but this happens in everyday households all around the world. Another tactic is financial abuse, where she does not talk to you about the importance of finances, show you or prepare you for the world to be self-sufficient and independent, does not tell you anything about credit. As a matter of fact, she may not ever let you work a job, or if you do work a job, she tell you you have to pay the light bill and you got to pay this bill and that bill. Or financial abuse, where your own mother will take your name and take your identity before you're even 18 years of age and go get all kinds of stuff in your name in an effort to ruin your credit before you are even adult age, to be able to build your own credit and build your own financial reputation. This is your mother now, setting you up for failure from the very beginning. It is so much. It is so much. But I find that in a lot of these toxic feminine households with a narcissistic mother, that same mother will weaponize her family against her own daughter. If the daughter does not want to do what the mother wants her to do, or the daughter does not allow the mother to abuse her, talk to her any kind of way, or even use her, the mother will paint this nasty narrative to her family and tell her family that the child is rebellious, the child is no good, the child is just hard to deal with, or what have you. I'm just trying to help this child and she just keep causing me so much pain. So that if in the event she puts you out, because a lot of these parents, they do put their daughters out at 16, 17 years old, or barely 18. Some people are still being their last year of high school. And because you don't want to go with her program, she'll put you out on the streets in an effort to hope you fail, or hope that you come groveling and bowing down to her and doing what she wants you to do, because she knows that if you go out there, she's already smeared you and tainted you so bad that maybe your own family members, which are her family, may not even want to help you. And they may tell you, you got to go back over there with your mom. You got to do right by your mother. I know she might be wrong, but that's your mother. You only get one mother. Stuff like that, conditioning you to accept abuse for survival. This is what a lot of young women are going through. And so if you come from a dynamic like that, it is almost inevitable, because you were not properly prepared and you didn't get the proper counsel on what to look for, good and bad, in a partner. Most women who end up with the most narcissistic romantic partners, a lot of these women tell all of their business from the very beginning. Instead of getting a therapy session, or instead of going to see a coach or seeing a psychologist, a lot of times, because she doesn't recognize that what she went through was not normal, when the man presents himself as a listening ear and he say, tell me things about you, I want to get to know you, immediately she thinks it's about her childhood. So she'll tell about her growing up and her parents, her relationship with her mother and her father and her family. And you're thinking that you're in the presence of somebody that cares and genuinely wants to get to know you, but you're telling all of your trauma, your deficits, and your voice to a man who's only going to weaponize that at a later date and use that against you. I find oftentimes men who are abusers, users, and exploiters, a lot of times those men will weaponize that information against you earlier than they would if they would have just waited to isolate you in time, because they don't necessarily have to isolate you from a large community or support system when you've already told him you don't get along with your mother, your father, or your family. So if you've already told him that your caretaker, your primary caretaker, which is supposed to be the first nurturer and the example of love in your life, either y'all have a strained relationship or you have no relationship, that man in his mind, if he is up to no good and he don't really like women, because a lot of times you will be dealing with a man who's toxic, feminine, and male form, and he may not even like women, or he may not even like you as a woman, especially if you have some characteristics that resemble some type of strength, some type of empathy, beautiful qualities about yourself, where you are maybe a loving and caring person. If he comes from a dysfunctional and toxic household, that man is not going to appreciate or value that. He doesn't even know what to do with that. So as a result, he's going to use your humanity, your vulnerability against you, and he's going to see that as naivety and see you as being gullible, and he's going to do everything that he can to siphon and usurp that vitality and that humanity from you. And so the same tactics that your mothers used, who was narcissistic, would be the same tactics that this toxic feminine and male form will use, who's narcissistic as well. That familiar spirit does not do anything new. It repeats the same thing until you understand what you're dealing with to conquer it. And so the isolation tactics that your mother did, that person will do the same thing when you don't go along with the program, or when that person gets through using you up. That is when all of the games and all of the tactics start, especially if you get tired of performing your people pleasing and you say, enough is enough. I'm just going to walk away from this situation. If they put you in a situation where they have abused you or used you or disrespected you so much that they don't want to walk away because they don't want to look like the bad guy, so to put you in a compromising position to control the narrative, they will mistreat you so badly that you walk away. Especially in the beginning stages, if you ever told that man, I just couldn't deal with my mother anymore, her instability and her always wanting to argue, I just had to cut her off. In the South, they have a phrase that says, feed him with a long handled spoon. And a lot of times people will say that, I'm just feeding her with a long handled spoon. I have to love her from a distance. If you told that man you have to love your mother from a distance, you just can't take her toxicity, or you just had to cut her off, he knows that 9 times out of 10, you're going to cut him off as well. So what he will do is, to stay in control of the narrative, that man will mistreat you and disrespect you and play in your face so much that you will get tired of trying to people please. You will get tired of trying to clean up messes that you did not create, and you're going to walk away. And when you walk away, he is already prepared, because he's going to play the good guy role and pretend as though you were the problem and he was the solution. And that he tried to love you and he tried to care for you, but he just didn't know what to do. And you left him, or you cheated on him, or you wanted to be with someone else, or whatever. But he will spin that narrative. He will spin that narrative to where he's the good person and you're the bad person. If you did discard him and you tried to go on with your life, then he may spin the narrative that he just couldn't take you and he had to discard you and walk away from you because you was just too toxic or you was just too unstable. Whatever narrative he spin, he has already been doing that while he was in that relationship with you. So anytime where he was in the wrong and you argue with him or you tried to hold him accountable, he went to his family and friends and said, I just don't know what's wrong with her. I just don't know what's going on with her. I don't know what has gotten into her. Keep in mind, these are his family and friends. So oftentimes these men will use their family and friends as a weapon against their partners, against women. And so the same thing he does with his family and friends is the same thing that your mother did with her family. When you don't want to be on board and do what she wants you to do, she gets on the phone and she gossips and tell anybody who will listen that you're rebellious. She just can't do nothing with you. She's trying to love you. And all it is a miscommunication, or you just don't want to do what she wants you to do. And because you refuse to bow down to her and accept her abuse or disrespect, or you try to hold her accountable, she gets on the phone and she weaponizes her family against you, which is supposed to be support and community for not just her, but for you as well. That man does the same thing your mother did when you was a child. So that is the beginning stages of weaponizing outside parties against one person, one victim, one target. Next, the same thing that your mother did with trying to interfere with your relationships. A lot of toxic women who are in competition with their daughters, they don't want their daughters loved by anybody. They don't want their daughters to have healthy friendships, don't want them to have any healthy dating experiences. They don't even want the counselors at school to help their daughter. They don't want you to have any healthy community. They don't want you to have outside relationships other than them. If you won't allow her to be the dictator of your life, then she tries to convey this message that you won't have anybody, anywhere, and anything without her permission. So either you're going to get with her program or you're not going to have anything at all. That's why a lot of these mothers try to know who are your friends. And then if they find out that you have pretty decent friends, they'll be in your ear trying to get you to see things that are not even there. I really don't like her, or I really don't like him. You got to watch that person. You got to watch this person. Try to make you paranoid in your relationships because they are trying to covertly make you dependent on only them. Same thing in these toxic feminine relationships with narcissistic men. He starts to plant seeds of doubt in all of your relationships within your mind, your siblings and your family and your friends and your coworkers and all of these people. He will tell you to watch that one and watch this one. But secretly, he is covertly trying to isolate you from connections with other people. Okay? Same thing. And if he knows that you don't have a great relationship with your family, that is a perfect setup for an abuser. Because abusive men believe women who have no outside community are the perfect target for predatory and abusive behavior, because who's going to come to your rescue? That's what they believe. In their mind, they believe you have no backing and that you're wide open. If he wants to do anything to tarnish your reputation or try to destroy you in any way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, or physically, nobody is going to come and interfere with him at all. He believes that many people would turn a blind eye. Either your family don't like you, or either you come from a family system with a lot of maybe addictions and a lot of instabilities, or either you're just on the outs and you've decided that you don't want to deal with them at all. So he believes that nobody will hold him accountable, and there will be no real repercussions if that man decides to destroy your life or even take your life. It is a very, very sick and diabolical thing when you're dealing with men who are just like your narcissistic mother, because her overall job is to diminish your entire existence if you do not allow her to control your existence. And when you decide to step away from a toxic feminine man who's a narcissist, it's the same thing. If you don't allow him to do what he wants to do to you, and you refuse to fall in line the way he wants you to fall in line, and you won't allow him to mistreat you and abuse you, he will try to destroy you, even if you separate, even if you get away from him, even when you're not with him. He will try to weaponize the environment against you, even if you decide to go on with your life. That is the same thing narcissistic mothers do to their daughter. The overall goal is destiny alteration. These men who are just like your narcissistic mother, they want to alter your destiny. They believe that since you won't allow them to abuse you, and you believe that you deserve love and respect and value and to be cared for, because they refuse to give that to you, then you won't have that at all. That is why they try to interfere with all of your relationships outside of them. That is why they try to smear you. That's why they try to lie on you. That's why they try to blame shift and switch the roles in terms of the narrative and the story. That's why they try to isolate you so that you won't have the things that you are destined to have. The same thing that your toxic and dysfunctional mother did. Because your mother refused to give you the basic essentials that every child needs to thrive, she does not believe that you should be able to get that from anywhere, from anyone, in any place in this lifetime. That is some demonic and low down and dirty stuff. But women who come from toxic, feminine, narcissistic mothers end up dating toxic, feminine, narcissistic men. Those are men that usually do not like you. And these are men that also are in secret competition with women. They target women in an effort to make themselves look good on the outside, but secretly, they are in competition with women, and they seek to destabilize women mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and financially. And as a matter of fact, if you do have a strong male presence in your life, they're less likely to try to pull that game on you. But when you have a toxic mother in your life and that man knows it, he mirrors that same thing. And sometimes if you come from a situation where your mother has been so damaged by life, that man who has a familiar spirit on him will try to damage you the very same way in an effort to try to get you to be just like your mother, jaded, heartbroken, alone, toxic, just like her. But really, when you come out on the other side and you step back and you look at the comparison between your narcissistic mother and your narcissistic partner, who's a man, what you will see is that same mental instability that your mother has, that man has the same mental instability. All of the promises that your mother gave but couldn't keep, that man also promised you all of these things, but he never kept it. His word is not his bond, just like your mother's word was never her bond. That vagabond and nomadic spiritual spirit that your mother had, where there is a lack of firm foundation, he's the very same way. Only relationships that your mother has are the ones that she can use. The same thing with that man. And if given the opportunity, he will weaponize his relationships with other people against anybody that does not want to do what he wants them to do. Your mother, the same way. She will play victim just like that man will play victim. Don't you find it strange that a lot of toxic, feminine, narcissistic men make themselves the victim in every relationship with a woman? That is a very strange phenomenon. When a man really likes women, when he genuinely wants to have a long lasting and healthy relationship with a woman, and he wants to build a life with that woman, that man wants to make sure that that woman's life is elevated and upgraded better than when he even came into the picture. That man wants to make sure that even in separation, that she's doing well and that her life is easier than when he came into the picture. The only men that consistently play victim in romantic relationships is 9 times out of 10 an abusive man. And people believe, oh, well, if he didn't put his hands on you, that he's not abusive. That is not true. Any man who knows in his mind and in his heart, he really does not want to have a life with a woman. Maybe not traditionally. Maybe he wants to be a player. Maybe he wants to still be promiscuous. Maybe he wants to still play in the streets. Or maybe he just doesn't like women. Regardless of what the situation is, if he knows that he really does not want to live a consistent, healthy, and traditional life, why put all of these women through this type of cycle? Why? Why are you doing that? And so when you meet a man who's always the victim and he's a man in a romantic situation, something's not right with that. Something's not right with that. It's always the women who are crazy. It's always the women who are dogging him. It's always the women that are using and abusing him. But he keeps going from relationship to relationship in a short period of time, and nothing is consistent. There's no healthy longevity. Something's not right with that dynamic. And a lot of us as women, we end up meeting, if we come from toxic situations, like I said, with narcissistic mothers, we end up meeting these types of men. From the beginning, he's talking about his ex and how crazy she is and how he tried to love her and he just couldn't do it anymore. All of this same old tactics. Just like your mother. My family wasn't there for me. I came from hardship. My mother, my brothers, my father, all of these trauma stories, but they never consider family therapy. They tell you that story so that you can trauma bond with them. So when they start mistreating you and using you, you'll go to that reference. Oh, she's treating me like this because of the way she was raised and how her family did her. He's doing me like this because of how he was raised and how his family did him, or how his ex did him. So that you can sweep their behavior under the rug and keep cleaning up a mess that they're making of your life. It never fails. These conversations are very hard to have, but you will never be able to break the cycle if you do not acknowledge the signs right away. The moment you start feeling in your spirit that you've seen this play before, you watched this movie before, or you have experienced this energy before, then you know that that is a familiar spirit coming to kill, steal, and destroy. And the best thing to do as a woman when it comes to getting delivered and set free from that narcissistic pattern is to not only acknowledge the signs and the red flags from the beginning, but keeping your legs closed. Keeping your legs closed. I find the way that you can prevent this same cycle from childhood to adulthood, dating toxic feminine men like your mother, is to keep your sacred, intimate body to yourself. Allow seasons to play out and time to reveal the consistency of someone's character. I guarantee you, if you take sex off the table, a man who is not for you and not of God and does not mean you well, he will not be around for long. Because those seduction tactics that he likes to use, that incubus energy he likes to use, it will not work on a woman whose conscience is clear, whose standards are set. He will not be able to seduce you when your standard is set and you are not desperate for company. That is how you will avoid this inevitable cycle.